Hello to all our amazing viewers. Where are you watching from? Write in the comments. And now, let's dive into the story. 12 years at that damn dealership, and I still got summoned to a Monday morning meeting like I was some fresh out of school intern who didn't know where the break room was. No warning, no email explaining why, no agenda posted on the board, just an all-staff notice and a cold conference room waiting for us. When I walked in, Jason was already stretched out in the big chair at the head of the table, leaned back with one foot propped up on the edge like he owned not just the room, but everyone in it. He'd been the general manager for 6 months. 6. Married the owner's daughter after dating her for what felt like 15 minutes, and overnight he'd decided he was some kind of visionary leader. I took my usual seat near the back. Half the tech crew looked like they'd slept in their cars. The finance guy was clearly nursing a brutal hangover. Leanne was texting under the table, thumbs flying like none of this mattered. Jason clapped his hands once, loud and sharp like we were a room full of kindergartners. All right, let's settle in. Then he launched into a whole rant about quarterly pivots and market agility, words that floated right over half the room and irritated the rest of us. And then, right in front of everyone, he dropped it. "We're streamlining operations," he said, chewing his gums slow and loud. "We need techs, not librarians." Some of the guys laughed, awkward and unsure. A few stared down at their boots. I knew exactly who that shot was aimed at. He even paused to throw in a fake friendly aside, asking how everyone's day was going and where they were joining from, then shot me a look like he expected me to bite. I didn't. I just met his eyes and gave a small nod, calm and quiet, the kind that makes people uneasy. "Logistics matters," he continued, putting on that mock-serious tone. "But in today's market, experience beats credentials. Degrees don't mean much anymore." He was talking about me, my business degree, my 12 years running fleet accounts, vendor contracts, service schedules, basically keeping the entire back end of that place from collapsing. But sure, let's act like the owner's cousin, who once fixed a jet ski, was the future of operations. Jason glanced at Leanne, who smirked. "We're redistributing responsibilities across departments," he said, "making room for growth." I smiled just enough to show I heard every word. Under the table, I clicked my key fob twice. It buzzed once. Recording started. I'd been collecting everything since the first time he tried to edge me out of a call. I wrote a neat note in my pad without looking up. Jason wrapped the meeting like it was some motivational huddle, talking about building the future. I stood, tucked my pad under my arm, and walked out without saying a word. Out in the hallway, I passed Kyle, the cousin, strutting toward the shop like he already owned the place. He nodded at me. I didn't nod back. I went straight to my desk where my inbox had already been scrubbed clean of the morning's fleet update. By the end of that week, Jason stopped pretending. On Wednesday, he stood behind me in the break room while I poured coffee and said, loud enough for 3 sales guys to hear, "Careful there, don't overload your brain with paperwork. We don't need another paper jam." Then he laughed like he was the funniest guy alive. I didn't respond, just stirred my coffee slow and steady. Back at my desk, I realized I couldn't log into the vendor scheduling system anymore. No warning, no error message, just gone. The access list showed Kyle as the new primary. Then clients started disappearing. Fleet customers who'd worked with me for years suddenly stopped calling my line. I checked the back end and saw my email removed from 4 major accounts, replaced with a generic team address that wasn't a team at all. It was Kyle. The next Monday, I was dropped from the operations call I'd run for over a decade. No invite, no explanation. Leanne played dumb when I asked. By Friday, my desk was gone, reassigned. I walked in to find my chair shoved into a cramped corner between billing and parts returns, mismatched cubicle walls thrown up like an afterthought. No window, no phone, a new label hung on the frame. Records specialist. That was the final insult. I didn't argue. I didn't ask for a meeting. I sat down, logged in, and started reviewing authorizations. I made a list of every file tied to my name, every schedule, contract, order, and compliance record. Then I quietly started copying everything. Digital files, paper folders, stuff no one had touched in years. I boxed it, labeled it, backed it up on drives, and stored a second set off-site without telling anyone. Then I went into the CRM, the one Jason barely understood, and built a conditional trigger. Simple logic. If ownership on any fleet account changed before month end, the system would compile logs, timestamps, mismatches, and quietly send the entire packet straight to corporate compliance. No alerts, no noise. I buried the trigger inside a daily task Jason cleared every morning without reading. I tested it. Clean pass. All that was left was to wait. Thursday morning, Leanne tapped on my cubicle wall and said Jason wanted to see me. His office door was open. He smiled like a game show host. Kyle would be assuming my position effective immediately. My box was already packed. I took it, walked out, and didn't look back. I sat in my truck watching the clock. At 2:01 p.m., the system updated. Kyle Bender assigned as fleet lead. The trigger activated. Quiet. Automatic. I rolled down the window and watched Kyle strut across the lot like he'd won something. The next morning, Lynn sent me photos. Kyle at my old desk, new chair, music playing. He renamed folders, deleted flagged files, ignored warnings. By Monday, vendors weren't played. By Tuesday, systems hiccuped. By Wednesday, orders went missing, deliveries rerouted, and a major client was handed the wrong keys. Lynn texted me mid-morning. He just called it a glitch. I read the message while trimming hedges in the backyard. It was 82 out, humid, and the clippers were dull. I didn't stop. Another message came through a minute later. Screenshot of Kyle's Slack message to the team. "No stress, everyone. We're just ironing out bumps in the new flow. Thanks for riding the wave." I had to sit down for a second, not from the heat, just to keep from laughing so hard I'd fall into the bushes. By 4 o'clock, Lynn said the delivery board had been wiped. Kyle made a new one on Trello called Kyle's Run Plan. She said it had 6 columns, 2 spelling errors, and 0 dates. I texted back, "He's building a Jenga tower with wet noodles." She liked the message but didn't reply. I knew if she was thinking, same thing I was. Jason thought he'd installed a next-gen logistics wizard. What he got was a guy who thought renaming folders and buying a chair was strategy. I went back to trimming, hedge clippings stuck to my arms, sweat rolling behind my ears. I didn't mind. Every second Kyle stayed in that seat, the countdown ticked louder. Let them call it a glitch. The system didn't. Thursday morning, Lynn texted me again. "Parts forecast meeting canceled. Kyle says we're pivoting to real-time logistics." I didn't answer, just kept spreading mulch around the front bushes. A few hours later, she followed up. "Jason told everyone to keep it agile and trust the shift." Trust the shift. That was rich. By Friday, the cracks weren't just cracks anymore. They were gaping. Shipping schedules were slipping, drivers were double booked, billing had a stack of unsigned work orders they couldn't route. One of the porters said Kyle spent 20 minutes trying to figure out why the delivery board didn't have a reschedule all button. Lynn called me after lunch. "He's flailing," she said. "Everyone feels it, even Manny's pissed." Manny didn't get pissed, not unless payroll bounced. That night, Lynn sent me a photo, a parts log Kyle had tried to update poorly. Scrolled next to the PO number, my backup label was still there in pen. My initials, my old date format, same all caps warning I always used for flagged vendors. Her message came right after the photo. "Did you leave this behind on purpose?" I stared at the screen for a second, thought about answering, didn't let it hang. Monday, corporate's mid-level compliance auditor flagged a transport log mismatch. Something small, but out of place. Quarter-end data didn't match the vendor confirmations, standard stuff, until they went looking for the original logs and couldn't find any. The reason? Kyle had wiped the archived routing reports when he simplified the order flow. Gone, deleted, no rollback. Jason got CC'd on the compliance ticket. His reply? Those reports were always hard to follow, probably a clerical mix-up. Kyle's was worse. "We don't use those old reports anymore." No greeting, no signature, just that one dumb sentence. The compliance officer printed the email, word for word, highlighted the last line, slipped it into a folder she kept labeled CYA. "Cover your ass," Lynn said. Monica, compliance support, was the one who did it. Quietly, carefully, didn't say a word, just slid the paper in and clicked the drawer shut like she'd done it before. I asked Lynn if anyone else noticed. She said, "No, not yet. Just tension. Even customers were starting to feel it. One of our long times called in asking why his delivery date kept jumping. The scheduler told him there's a new system in place. He asked to speak to me. Got told I didn't work there anymore." Lynn didn't say how he reacted. Didn't need to. Jason was running out of words that didn't mean anything. Kyle was running out of ways to blame the system, and I was running out of hedges to trim. I wiped the sweat off my neck and sat on the porch. My phone buzzed again. This time, an internal memo from someone in dispatch must have been forwarded by Lynn. The subject line, Operational Timeline Reset. That meant nothing, but the body, per leadership request, project task completion windows are now open-ended. Do not over-prioritize deadlines. Translation, the place was sinking and they were throwing away clocks. I sat back, looked out at the driveway. The countdown was halfway done. Friday morning started with a buzz from Lynn. 3 drivers just walked. All of them, no warning. I sat up on the porch swing, coffee half gone, legs stiff from sitting too long. Text came through right after. They said payments frozen, payroll bounced them. I already knew why. Kyle had shut off the old payroll route tied to the fleet division, said it was redundant, never patched it into the new back end. Without the patch, back end didn't talk to payroll didn't talk to direct deposit, and the system, my system, didn't warn him because he deleted the alert rule set on day 2. Lynn followed with a third message. You'd think someone would notice missing drivers. Jason just told everyone to stay solution-minded. That afternoon, corporate announced a regional director progress visit for the following Thursday. That's when I knew we were close. Jason forwarded the announcement like it was an invitation to a grand opening, pasted some quote about innovation, said the timing was perfect to show off their new workflow. Lynn said Kyle took it as a personal challenge. He started reorganizing the internal bulletin board, ripped down the old rotation sheets, replaced everything with pastel Canva printouts and a sticker chart. A sticker chart for metrics. The title at the top, Load-Free Logistics. Nobody knew what it meant, not even Kyle. Monday, Lynn overheard him explaining it to the front desk team. It's like minimizing the mental load of operational processes, he said. We streamline by unburdening cognitive flow. She said, one of the techs actually asked, "You mean we stop thinking?" Kyle replied, "Exactly." I just leaned back and laughed into my coffee. Tuesday morning, Lynn sent me a screenshot of the visit agenda. Regional director, 3 compliance staff, 2 senior managers, tour, presentation, Q&A, and at the bottom, under logistics and fleet systems, project manager, my full name. Still there, still tied to it. No update, no strikeout, just sitting there like I never left. Lynn didn't add any emojis, no jokes, just one line under the screenshot. Clock's ticking. She didn't need to say anything else. Kyle had 4 days left to figure out how to explain an entire system he barely understood. And Jason? He was already practicing buzzwords in front of mirrors, probably. I walked out to the backyard, hose still coiled where I left it the night before, turned it on, let the water soak the edge of the fence line. I wasn't nervous. I'd built that system to track everything from route changes to order flow to fleet mileage. Every missed update, every failed sync, every deleted archive documented in silence. The CRM trigger was still running. No flags, no alerts, just logging quietly. The countdown didn't beep, didn't flash, it just ticked. Wednesday night, 6:13 p.m., Lynn forwarded the confirmation email. Confirmed. Regional director and compliance team will be on site 8 a.m. sharp. That was it. No fluff, no smiley faces. I stared at the screen, sitting at my kitchen counter, phone buzz still rattling against the wood, coffee gone cold, fan humming overhead. She followed up a few minutes later. They're doing a walkthrough. Jason's got Kyle rehearsing like it's the Oscars. Apparently, Jason dragged the whole ops team through a fake tour, even made Kyle practice handshakes and slide transitions, called it a dress run. Kyle wore a collared shirt for once, didn't tuck it in. Lynn said he kept calling himself the quarterback of the future, like that meant anything. At 7:48 p.m., she sent one more message. He just deleted the backup config folder, said it was too long to sort. Monica saw it. I paused, took a breath. That folder had every restoration file for the last 3 years. error protocols, user rollback data, historical flow logs. The ones flagged critical were marked by system rules I manually wrote. He deleted it like it was trash. 10 minutes later, Lynn texted again. Monica found something. I didn't answer. This time, she called. Her voice was quiet, no small talk. She was checking the remaining config tables, making sure compliance still had access, she said. Found a rule buried in the March update. I leaned forward, pressing my hand into the counter. She read it 3 times, then read it out loud. I could hear the smirk in Lynn's voice now, barely. She said, if leadership changes within 14 business days of a critical turnover, accountability shifts to the assigning executive. I let it hang. And I asked, she didn't say anything after that, just stared at the screen and said, oh. Then she backed out of the config. Didn't close the window, just minimized it. That rule wasn't hidden, but it wasn't loud either. It had no pop-up, no bright icon. It just existed, waiting. A clean flag in the compliance protocol triggered automatically the moment Kyle was assigned as project lead, and I was removed mid-cycle within 14 business days. Monica didn't report it. She didn't have to because the system did. Right around 8:01 p.m., while Jason was probably brushing his teeth and Kyle was memorizing buzzwords in front of a mirror, the packet sent itself. Not a memo, not a warning, a fully time-stamped compliance packet attached to a rule set clause that passed through corporate validation twice this year. It went straight to the regional director's inbox. Subject line, Accountability Assignment Logistics Compliance Chain. I didn't do anything else that night. Didn't reply, didn't call, just turned off my phone, poured another cup, and stared out the kitchen window at nothing. Let the system work. The next morning, 8:02 a.m., the doors closed behind the regional director. Jason smiled like it was Christmas morning, wore a blazer over his usual polo, and kept smoothing down the sleeves like he wanted it to fit tighter. Kyle stood next to him at the front of the conference room in white sneakers and a black turtleneck, like he was about to pitch a meditation app. Slide 1 lit up the screen, Logistics Reimagined in bold, with a stock photo of a freeway and some hexagons floating behind it. Kyle stepped forward like he practiced in the mirror. What we've done here is pivoted from legacy load balancing to a clean slate infrastructure model, prioritizing cognitive flexibility and reducing stress bottlenecks across departments. No one spoke. He clicked to slide 2, more hexagons. Jason jumped in. It's really about dynamic shifts. Our culture needed movement, and Kyle's brought that. They flipped through more slides. Workflow uplift, transport light, vendor simplicity, each with less meaning than the last. At one point, Kyle used the phrase quantum level responsiveness. Then it hit slide 9, fleet transition phase 2. That's when the compliance officer, tight gray suit, clipboard still closed, raised her hand. Where's the phase 2 confirmation? She asked. Jason blinked, looked at Kyle. Kyle didn't miss a beat. We deleted it. Her eyebrows barely moved. Excuse me? He shrugged, still holding the remote like it gave him power. The document was redundant. The metrics were legacy. I simplified. There was silence. Monica stood up from the back row, calm, quiet, walked to the front of the room without asking permission. She didn't look at Kyle, didn't even glance at Jason. She held up a printed sheet and set it on the table in front of the compliance officer. Triggered document, she said. Timestamped 8:01 p.m. last night. Subject line, Accountability Assignment Logistics Compliance Chain. The compliance officer opened the folder, read the page, then looked at Jason. You aware of this? Jason squinted. Of what? She passed it to legal. Legal scanned it, flipped to the second page. Locked compliance protocol, he said, triggered by system rule set from March. Authenticated digital signature originated from... He paused, looked at Monica. She nodded. From the previous project manager, he finished. Manual rule set entry, validated by platform logs. Jason's face lost its color. The regional director leaned forward, pulled the document across the table, read it out loud without rushing. In the event that leadership is reassigned within 14 business days of a critical operational transition, executive oversight will bear full accountability for compliance risk, systems loss, and project fallout. He looked up. You're confirming this was active during the transition? Legal nodded. Confirmed. Verified. Confirmed again last night by the system. Kyle tried to speak. I didn't know. The regional director raised a hand. You're not being asked anything. Kyle froze, mouth open, breath caught halfway. Jason looked around the room, scanning for backup. No one moved. Even Leanne stayed seated, arms crossed, eyes down. The regional director stood, straightened his jacket. This falls under executive oversight failure, he said. Risk transfer is in effect. Corporate will conduct a secondary audit. Jason opened his mouth. Don't, Monica said, flat. You signed off on his access. You bypassed the dual check protocol. You deleted the redundancy flag. Kyle looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. Legal began collecting papers. The compliance officer stood too. She tapped the triggered document once with her pen. This is a clean pull, not a complaint, not an accusation, just data. You brought this on yourselves. Jason didn't say a word. Kyle still hadn't moved. Monica walked out first, then legal, then compliance. Jason stayed standing for a minute too long. Then he finally sat, elbows on the table, hands pressed to his temples. Lynn texted me 5 minutes later. It landed. I didn't ask for details, didn't need to. I was standing on the pier with my dad, line in the water, breeze off the lake sharp enough to feel clean, sun just high enough to keep the chill off. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it right away, just leaned back, gave the line a tug, slow and steady. Something light was on it, nothing big, probably a sunfish. Dad didn't say much, he never did, just cast again, quiet beside me, sipping his burnt gas station coffee. When the line tightened, I reeled it in. Little guy, maybe 6 in, flopped like hell. While I was unhooking it, I finally pulled out my phone. Unknown number. Are you open to consulting work? Flexible terms, regional director's request. No name, just that. I watched the fish flick once in my hand, then go still. I dropped it gently back into the lake and wiped my fingers on my jeans. Didn't reply, didn't need to. Not yet. Back at the dealership, Lynn sent a message an hour later. Jason's being reassigned, quietly. Kyle got walked out this morning, no goodbyes. I didn't smile, but I didn't frown either. Second message came 2 minutes later. Systems are being restored. Your backups loaded like nothing ever left. Then she sent a photo of the flash drive I'd left in the archive bin 6 months ago. Hand-labeled, bright green tape. Use only if they get too cocky. Written in Sharpie. I stared at that photo longer than I meant to. Dad reeled in a perch. Didn't even look over. You want this one? He asked. Nah, I said. Toss it back. He did. I slid my phone into my tackle box and snapped it shut, left it on silent. The sun was out, the water was calm. Let them reach if they want me. I'll decide if I reach back.